Hello and welcome everybody back to episode 63 of Comic DNA. We're taking a little break from the X-Men series that I'm doing with my buddy Alex, and we're going to do another creator hangout. And with me today is a fun creator that I've had on the show before, where we talked about Watchmen, the comic versus the movie. That was episode 51, which was really not too long ago. I'm very happy to have back Mr. Christopher Ochs. Did I say your name right this time?
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you. First of all, you don't mind me calling you Chris, do you?
No, I have a number of aliases.
Just in the back pocket whenever you need them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a Russ Shackelford type situation.
Well, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do this creator hangout. I know we were talking about doing another episode on something, and I thought, why not just hang out and talk about, comics and whatever. I know you're working on a lot of stuff.
I am, yeah. I've got 3 major projects going on concurrently. I think that's the correct word. Concurrently means 3. That means simultaneously, more or less. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
That's what's up.
Mm-hmm. I know how that is. It's like I can't stop myself from starting a new project.
I think I learned. So sometimes
yeah.
members of my family to see what the fuck's wrong with me. Because I think we've got kind of similar brain chemistry or whatever. So it's kind of like studying animals and kind of learning more about humanity in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of look at what they're doing. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm wrong. Like from my mother, I think I get this from her. If I don't have some kind of project or some sort of major like campaign I'm trying to do, I'll just invent one. I really will. I won't let myself be non-productive in some way or another. I just think it's some kind of thing in my brain.
Yeah, I think a lot of I don't want to say artistic types people, but I think there are a lot of people that are just driven to always be working, doing something.
Here's a topic. Damn, I didn't think about this before.
Uh-huh.
Artists and serial killers. I think there's something in the brain. There's some kind of okay. Do some research. Look into this. How many serial killers had drastically pronounced slants toward artistic?
Oh,
artistic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, man. Like a lot of serial killers were also artists, or at least had some strong artistic inclinations.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about art, it really feels more like a compulsion than anything else. It feels something like when I run into people from high school and they're like, hey, are you still drawing? And it just seems like a completely bizarre question to me, like
right.
As if I would ever not do that. Like, how do you think I could possibly not draw? And that's when I realized, like, it is in a very real way a compulsion. And I really think there is like some kind of weird like thing in your brain. We just got lucky, realistically, that we didn't get the serial killer version of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's like some overlap, man. I think like the compulsions that force them to do what they do aren't totally unrelated to the compulsions that forced us to create in one way or another.
Yeah, I think an argument could be made for some kind of connection there. Have you seen the movie Art School Confidential?
No.
Oh, it's Dan Clowes. It's like based off some of his comics, and he wrote the screenplay. I think it was after Ghost World, but it's a really good movie, and it's kind of like it's almost like a film noir setting in an art school, and it's about this kid that goes to art school, and there's all this. There's a lot of jokes about artistic people, and whether or not they're like full of themselves with their art, or how well they can produce. But the setting, there's this kind of urban legend going around the school about this murderer, and there's a lot of connection between like kind of what you're talking about, that's art versus serial killers, and that sort of ends up being a plot point.
Yeah. I love Klaus. I love him.
I would recommend it. My favorite part of it is there's a character who's an undercover cop in the school looking for the murderer, and so he has to take these art classes, and he doesn't, you know, he's a cop. He's there to look for the murderer, so he doesn't care about the art that he's making at all. And it's just the most amateurish, lazy, you know, nonsense art that could ever be put up there. And then, you know, the art teacher and all the other students are sitting there and examining it and like really, really trying to like evaluate it and kind of get into his head of like what he was thinking when he created this. And it's just like he wasn't thinking anything. He barely even did it. You know, he has like no artistic bone in his body. It's hilarious.
I would never, ever, ever say that Lynch doesn't have an artistic bone in his body, because clearly he's very artistic. But I know that most of what David Lynch does that we like desperately try to analyze, he doesn't know what it means either, man.
Yeah.
Part of what David Lynch is about, in my opinion, after like, there was a time in my life where I wanted to drive to David Lynch's house and kidnap him and then handcuff him to like a radiator and force him to explain Eraserhead to me. Like, it was a plan I was willing to execute. But I've gotten to this point where I completely believe that his whole thing is just creating chaos and allowing people to find either confusion or some kind of meaning in it.
Mm-hmm.
I completely don't think that he has a master plan to a lot of what he does. And I feel like a lot of people desperately try to find meaning that's not there.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. I think Lynch is actually a really good example. I think there are a lot of artists. I mean, you see this in a lot of musicians too, I think, where you have a like an artistic medium that can be a little bit more abstract and a little surreal. And a lot of it is what I would call like gut impulses in what they're doing. And they sort of just get lucky that everybody else finds meaning in it. And that's not to say that there's not meaning in it, but I think like people, you know, just average people, not to suggest that you and I are average, but I think the average people have this desire to attribute like higher knowledge to things. Like we want to believe that there's always like this master plan in place for why everything is the way it is and why everything is great. And they just don't want to think that it was somebody just digging down into some random feeling that they had and they just threw it out there. And it sort of accidentally became a genius work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you ever get to the point where you actually get to meet some of these people, because I was absolutely like, you know, when I was younger, there's that French media theory where even if the creator does not intend a specific meaning, if that meaning can be established by objective observers, then it is it's there. Like they own it more than the creator does. And if they find the meaning in it, it's there. It doesn't matter what the creator says.
Right.
Like, that's kind of like the ultimate like snooty academic expression, like, you know, extension of that idea.
Yeah.
But like I got to the point where I got to meet a lot of the people who I idolized as artists in one form or another, and I realized these fuckers have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
Like you get to that point, you're like, oh wait, like this guy I think is like the coolest guy on the planet, who's some kind of master genius. He's not really that cool. He's not a cool guy. He's just kind of farting around out there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, like, you know, that's this weird, like, I don't know of a myth to like relate it to, but it's like you kind of meet the gods and you realize that they're all incompetent and not really paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
That absolutely is a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. No, I believe it. I do believe that a lot of genius works of art are, I don't want to say that they're done so necessarily by accident, but I will say that they're not necessarily done consciously, you know?
Yeah. Although it does give you a lot more appreciation for cats like Hitchcock or even, like, I would argue Edgar Wright is kind of like this to a point too, where that level of intricacy. Like it really is painstakingly created, like a multi-level puzzle in a weird way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that's not to, again, this whole discussion is not to suggest that there aren't these like multi-layered thinking workaholics who can just sit down and really piece something really intricate together into some master work. I mean, I think that's where you get like filmmakers like, you know, Stanley Kubrick or even the Coen brothers have that sort of like compulsive control over everything. And it just, makes something that is perfect. Edgar Wright's another good example too.
The Coen brothers are so amazing.
Oh, they're the best. I
I
am like an unabashed Coen Brothers fanboy.
Oh, they're so great. And I don't know. One of my favorite all-time actors ever is John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh,
love
sure.
so much. I love John Goodman, man. I don't know an actor who can be simultaneously really, really menacing and uncomfortable, yet so likable.
Yeah.
As John Goodman. I think his role in 10 Cloverfield Lane could not have been done that well by any other actor of his generation.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
I have not seen that one yet.
I think you should check it out. His character is done so well. You really don't know whether you like him or if he's just despicable, like psychotic nightmare. You cannot get a handle on it. And I think that John Goodman's it so good.
I believe that. Yeah.
He's so good at that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that movie. I never got around to it because I'm not the biggest fan of J.J. Abrams, and especially the Cloverfield movie. And the early advertisements for it was having a hard time determining if it was supposed to be related or not related to those, to the other stuff.
Yeah.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I saw a lot of good, not necessarily reviews, but discussions of the film. And they, from what I hear, it's a pretty good film, maybe except for the ending, but I haven't seen it, so I couldn't say.
I basically don't think I even like J.J. Abrams. I really don't.
Well,
I don't think I like him. I didn't like Cloverfield at all.
Right.
But the reason I watched 10 Cloverfield Lane is one, because John Goodman is like one of my favorite actors for sure. And two, I had heard some good things about it. And I definitely think that it was far, far, far better than the first movie. And inarguably a really, really strong performance from John Goodman.
Well, that's good.
I would recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah. J.J. Abrams, man, like, I don't know, like, why do we like him? Like, what happened here that we decided we liked him? Like, he kind of came up doing what? Like, he was involved with Lost, which a lot of people loved, right?
I hate Lost.
I don't. Yeah,
I hate Lost. It with a passion.
Like, what the fuck's that about?
Ugh.
Like,
it's very difficult for me to talk about stuff like this because it's very challenging for me to not just turn into this bitter, cynical, hateful monster, and I just can't understand who these people are that support this kind of tripe that gets put in front of them. And it's not to say that I think J.J. Abrams is a bad filmmaker. I just think that he makes bad films.
I don't know of a reason to like him. Like, I can't. Like, so Lost to me does absolutely nothing for his reputation. It seems like they were just trying to fake it till you make it the entire series. And when you got to the end, they were like, well, I know we've been saying we knew what was going on here, but we had no idea.
Right.
Here's some half-assed ending. Like,
and I called that from the beginning. Like,
yeah,
I was so mad. That's what made me so mad about it. I didn't watch the whole show. I quit after like season 3.
So I never watched it when it was on TV, but me and a friend of mine had heard so much about how, oh no, it's like they have this whole thing and an agenda and everything's going to make sense at the end. And then we heard when it ended that really it didn't. Yeah. So we made this plan to watch every episode and keep a list. And at the end, we would have a list of everything that had not actually been addressed or resolved.
Oh my goodness!
And we didn't make it through the second episode.
Right.
It was just so TV.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. I have such a
hard time with TV. Like, TV's hard for me to watch unless it's a comedy. Because, like, realistically, movies, if you're an actor or a filmmaker or director or whatever, you want to be doing movies because that's like the major leagues, and TV's kind of like college like ball in a weird way. So you're gonna get like lesser talent no matter what. And if it's comedy, it doesn't really matter. But anything else, it gets to the point where they're just using posturing to try to convince you of the quality of something that's really not there. Yeah. So like I can get down with TV comedies, but for the most part, if it's not a comedy, oh my goodness, I hate it.
I mean, you're talking my language here. I really dislike a lot of TV, and I know everybody thinks that we're in this like golden age of television right now, but I kind of I'm not going to say that I necessarily disagree, because I just that we're kind of getting into like just because I don't like it doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. Maybe TV is being done as well as it can possibly be done. But for me, as a writer, my I can't help but focus on the writing and like character dialogue and the way plots move along. And I find TV to be so manipulative in the way it presents, like the way it strings along viewers, because of the fact that it has to be serialized, to such a degree. And I feel like there's just a lot of wasted time. I feel like TV wastes my time. Yeah. I like a good movie that can just like tell a beautiful, perfectly structured story in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I don't mind sitting down for a nice long 3-hour epic, but I
really feel like this so-called golden age of TV is more a result of the fact that because of piracy and streaming, the distribution for TV almost makes more sense than a movie.
Oh, sure, it does.
So I really think that's kind of it, man. Like, people aren't going to the theaters as much as they used to because they're just staying at home and streaming it illegally.
Right.
And if you release your product serially, you have a better chance at like hooking people and making them come back than if it's just one big pop, one quick, easy thing to illegally download.
Right. I actually do think that is part of it, because more people, people just don't go to the theater much anymore. They like to just stay home, turn on Netflix, and it's more comfortable. It is. And yeah, so it would make sense that TV can fit into that a lot easier than movies can. But I guess what bothers me is a lot of people kind of create this like false equivalency where they say like certain things would be so much better as a television show than it would as a movie, because as a television show you'd have like 20 hours. If it was 20 episodes, hour long, you'd have 20 hours to tell this story, instead of you'd have to cram it all into a 2-hour frame. And that to me doesn't, like, more does not equal better. Like, just
no, it doesn't necessarily.
No, it doesn't. And to me, it doesn't mean that they're actually filling up 20 hours with quality storytelling. It just means that they got 20 hours to kill. Yeah. So they just put in a lot of filler stuff.
Like, bro, like, you have no idea the filler coming your way.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think so. I did think that the Daredevil Netflix shows were pretty well done, and I like that they had the amount of time they had for that, because Daredevil's an attorney, it does lend well to sort of like a crime courtroom drama type setting, and having more time can be helpful. And I also like the how much they gave themselves time to, like, you don't even see him in costume until like the very, very end. But there was something about that I thought kind of lent itself well, but you still never are able to get the sort of experience out of that you could from a movie. Right. And I still wish there was this good Daredevil movie out there we could watch. Like, I would like to see both in that case. I don't know. I definitely don't think the more equals better argument holds much water.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to poo-poo on TV too much, because that's not to say that there isn't television that I enjoy. I'm actually really, really into the Ash vs. Evil Dead revival going on. Yeah. I think that's actually probably one of the best shows out there right now.
Yeah, I love Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah, it's great. But it's also great because it's not just a remake of something old and given to you for nostalgia's sake. It's actually a continuation, and it's got everything you loved about the old one, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's just repackaged, watered down nonsense.
I think it's the best kind of fan service.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the whole thing is, we weren't, because of logistics and budget and this and that, we just weren't ever going to get Evil Dead 4. It wasn't going to happen. But there was so much demand for it that this is a way to give the audiences what they've wanted for decades. And it's kind of the only way. Like, there's been efforts to do it before, comic books, even the remake, like, that did nothing to like satiate the hunger fans had for Bruce Campbell's Ash character.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Ash versus the Evil Dead, this is the best we're going to get. This is how they can give us that again. And I don't have any complaints about it. I would love to see Evil Dead 4, but that's never going to happen, realistically.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it necessarily needs to happen now either, now that they've done the show.
Yeah. And I think I don't know, I actually wrote an essay about it that I don't think ever got published anywhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But I'm trying to reach back into my mind and kind of pull some of the better chunks, like some of the better blurbs from it. And I can't really, but yeah, no, I love Ash versus Evil Dead. And I think that it's good. It's just so good to see that again. That's something that the fans wanted. And like me being one of them, I know that. Like,
yeah.
Bruce Campbell in that role is just, it's very rare to have a horror franchise where the protagonist is what you celebrate. Ordinarily, the throwaway characters, and you want to see Freddy, you want to see Jason, but in that we got the rare protagonist who we actually, he's the one we want to come back for, and that's a special thing.
And he really is like the perfect protagonist, and because this could actually lead off into a long discussion about character archetypes in horror films, because I don't actually usually like horror films. I find horror as a genre to be oftentimes very annoying, because I think there are some great horror films, and I'm not opposed to the genre just because I don't like scary movies. More often than not, I get really bored by horror films because I think that the protagonists are unnecessarily stupid for no reason other than to put them in a situation where they, something bad happens to them. And I think what makes Evil Dead so great is that Ash is really stupid, and that's part of his character, is that he's an idiot.
A parody of it.
Yeah.
He's a parody of that idea. He's, at the same time, as much of an idiot as he could possibly be, and as impossibly badass as he could possibly be.
Yeah.
So that way he can be the protagonist that makes those stupid decisions over and over, but then is able to get out of it.
Exactly. And they balance that so perfectly in the new show with the whole thing about him being El Jefe, but he's also just an idiot, and he doesn't, he's uncontrollably badass, as you say, but he's also uncontrollably a complete idiot.
He's just got so many impossibly negative character traits.
Yeah.
He's a liar, he's a coward, he's a fool, he's a braggart. Like, he is just like everything you shouldn't want to be, but then he's able to just shift like seamlessly into this Clint Eastwood, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like 80s action hero.
Right.
It's really great.
It's great. It's fantastic.
We should definitely chat about the legitimacy of the horror genre sometime, because I have a markedly different take. I think it might make a good discussion.
Oh man, yeah. I suspected so, because I know you do a lot of writing, a lot of talking about film on your blog.
Yeah, I want to be kind of like an astronaut, like stranded forever in the furthest reaches of cinema, just like forever cascading into ever weirder and darker and more extreme, like substrata of the medium, and just kind of like chronicling it as I just fall forever. That's kind of what I want out of life, and that's what I'm trying to do. But I have learned an awful lot, sir. I'll tell you that. Yeah, we should have that convo someday.
I think we'll save that as a topic. Well, I'll find some other horror film genre aficionados, and we'll have a little roundtable discussion about protagonists and antagonists in horror films.
I'm into that.
Yeah, right on.
You know what else? Reality TV. Why do they talk so stupid?
Because it's not reality.
Every reality TV show personality talks like Billy Mays. Like, I went over to my parents' house and they were watching Big Brother. They're all like, I'm in the Big Brother house and I'm going to figure out how to vote them out. Like, they all talk really loud and like this weird monotone. Like, why? It's universal. It's
something that is beyond me. I have never understood the like the rise of reality TV. I guess I understand it from like a psychological point of view. People are really voyeuristic, I think, just like on a subconscious level.
I
And
almost feel like that was the initial selling point.
mm-hmm.
I don't think that's why it stuck around. Like now when I see reality TV or so-called reality TV, I think the voyeuristic aspect is kind of faded away. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's literally just the lowest investment fluff. And I think
Yeah, that
that's
too.
what people want. It's like Blue's Clues for adults.
Right, yeah. I
That's
mean,
what
yeah, people don't, it's just easier to not have to be put any sort of personal investment in something to get anything out of it.
escapism is valuable, man. I think
Yeah.
everyone kind of just wants to be dead right now. It's like kind of a time. So just like watch some idiots and tune out. Like I think that's it. Like I don't know. So my parents watch that. They watch Big Brother. I
Uh-huh.
bet if we went over there right now and asked them, they don't know the names of one of those people.
Right.
They're not hooked on this voyeuristic thing anymore. They don't know who they are. They're not like getting some kind of charge out of like watching. They're just like turning it on and turning off. I really think that's all it is.
They're like George Romero zombies, just kind of going through the motions because that's what they used to have always done, and they don't know anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. The Billy Mays thing, though, that's one I don't know why. I don't get it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I think the most interaction I've had with reality shows is from watching Ricky Gervais's Extras series, where his character was on one of the Big Brothers or something, like in the context of the show. That's about it for me.
That would actually be a good idea for like if you had like the real Big Brother show and there was like an actor playing a character the whole time. That would be interesting.
That would be funny. Yeah, there's potential there. Do like a show within a reality show. You can do layers there.
Then they could all die.
Yeah, exactly. It just ends with a meteor hitting the planet.
Yeah. Actually, have you seen Ghost Watch?
No, I haven't.
Ghost Watch is awesome.
I've been hearing some things about it.
Yeah, that's sort of a weird example. It was marketed. This was before reality TV, and it was marketed as like an expose, like it was supposed to be real, and they sort of like Orson Welles with the Martians thing. But then at the end, everybody gets possessed, and it's like it legitimately terrified England. Like Ghost Watch is almost a good example of that.
Yeah.
Anybody out there listening, check out Ghost Watch. That's pretty great.
I have to add that to my list of Christopher Ochs recommends.
Yeah, I don't know if that was ever released in the United States. I'm gonna do a quick Google while we chat and see.
Yeah, I actually have no idea, but I just saw somebody talking about that on Facebook either today or yesterday. I mean, heck, it might have been you.
I don't think so. I don't think I haven't mentioned Ghost Watch in just an age. Looks like there's a Region 2 DVD of it. If anyone has an all-region player, check it out.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
I think the fact that you've heard of it recently as well is a sign from the universe that you need to check it out.
Yeah, that's coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. Actually, I do. I think everything is a coincidence.
Yeah, that's a topic I don't feel qualified to comment.
That's okay. Me neither.
Here's another topic though.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon.
Oh man,
we talked about Jimmy or J.J. Abrams. Now let's hit up Joss Whedon, the other weird like nerd demigod.
So actually that is a good transition because he's been in the news, a little bit the last couple of weeks.
That's right.
So my whole life is not indulging in Schadenfreude, and I don't want to say that I feel vindicated by the recent things that have happened to Joss Whedon, but I never particularly liked him, and I've been on record as saying that and I always get a lot of hate from my friends because there's just this obsession with him, about just about everything that he does.
I'm spiteful enough to just love it. Because I've had this conversation a lot too. so for people who aren't like keeping up on what happened with him in the news, is I guess, correct me if I'm wrong here,
Mm-hmm.
his ex-wife, I think,
Yeah,
came
yeah.
out and said this guy's actually he's been cheating on me. He's had multiple affairs.
Mm-hmm.
He's not at all, because his whole shtick is that he's this feminist guy,
Right,
and that's been
exactly.
an enormous part of the pull for him.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
conversation about Whedon has been, why do people think he's a feminist? Like, because yeah, the whole argument is, well, he always has female characters in his leads. He has strong like female
Mm-hmm.
characters. Okay, I see that. That's true, but so do porn directors.
Right, exactly.
I've never seen Joss Whedon do a movie with or anything with a strong female lead that he didn't sexually exploit so hard.
Yeah, yeah, I
Always.
agree.
He always exploits them. There's like that famous Avengers Black Widow butt like shot where he tracks in on the butt like Toby Hooper did in Texas Chainsaw. And it's like, you don't do that and also pretend like you're trying to present these people in a non-sexual context.
Yeah,
I really think he's just like maybe an above average storyteller who somehow got this rep for being a feminist, and then that he didn't really deserve or understand, and he just took advantage of it.
I think that people started throwing the label at him, and he just leaned into it really hard because
Yeah,
he saw that there was obviously marketable benefits to it.
yeah, and he just rode that pony all the way as far as he could.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so after Avengers 2, there was a lot of like, oh, well, this is like a nightmarishly off-color thing for a professed feminist to have done. Like, why would he do this? And I think that was sort of when people started to see behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't want to be unfair to a lot of people because it's not like I'm the only person that has ever questioned Joss Whedon, and his competence or his credentials. There have been people that have been raising concerns about Whedon for a long time, but I think the matter is that the fan community just didn't care.
Yeah.
And so what happens now, it's got to be so frustrating for so many people. I mean, I find it frustrating is that now that all of this comes out, and I mean, a divorce is rough, so it's like, I know that there's a lot of stuff going on, but at the same time, if he's cheating on his wife, then I don't have much sympathy for him. And so to where was I going with all this? Like with all this stuff happening, there's a lot of people that are like you said, like having these awakenings, and I'm seeing all these think pieces of people saying like reevaluating Joss Whedon's stuff now that I know he cheated on his wife, and it bothers me so much because it's like these people are suddenly saying like, oh, now that I know he cheated on his wife, it seems like his female characters aren't actually all that great, and they seem to be like sexually exploited in various times. And the example you use with Black Widow, and it bothers me because it's like there have been people that have been saying that all along, but it's like they needed this like really harsh wake-up call for somebody to actually realize it or look at it. I don't know.
It is really frustrating to be the guy that's trying to tell everybody that there's body snatchers like all this time, and then when the body snatchers do like show up, nobody says, hey guy, you were right, sorry we didn't listen.
Right.
I'm in that role a lot. I think my role in humanity often is the guy in the woods that says everybody is body snatchers, like for sure.
Yeah.
But also, like, frankly, I don't care about someone's personal life. I don't care if he's cheating on his wife. That's their business. But he has completely taken advantage of the I'm a feminist thing.
Oh,
and he's
for sure.
about it in a really, really snooty way.
Yeah.
So many times. And one of the single biggest appeals he's had throughout his entire career is this whole feminist angle, and it's bullshit. That deserves to be part of the conversation.
I agree. Yeah.
And I really think like that, I've never heard someone praising Joss Whedon that didn't bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
So it does seem like he's kind of a fraud. And I mean, here we are.
Well,
and on top of that, I've never particularly cared for his body of work either.
That's the real thing is like, there's a lot of people that are suddenly like, I don't know if I can look at his old work the same way. That's one thing. Fine. I never thought he was particularly that great. I thought all of his characters, regardless of gender, all of his characters were way too quippy. Everybody always had like a cute little joke that didn't always match the context of the scene, but we always like to end the scene on a joke, so there it is. There's a lot of little things like that I could not stand about his storytelling. But
I never watched the Buffy show either. Maybe that's where.
See, I did. I watched the first couple of seasons, like when it first came out. I mean, I can't remember if I was in high school or if it started before I was in high school. I was pretty young. I remember when it came out because it was kind of a big deal. And I watched it and I got bored of it pretty quick.
It looked like a Dawson's Creek show to me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it was, you know.
It did not look in any way interesting at all. I had no desire to watch it.
Yeah. I think one thing that I find really interesting, kind of following through this topic to something else that I've noticed a lot, just on the subject of feminism, and this might get like really deep into the weeds here with like political talk, but I find it really interesting. I am seeing a lot of these like think pieces from self-proclaimed progressive feminists who are having almost like an existential crisis because they have been betrayed by like a male feminist, and that like really destroys them, and it like leads them down this really dark road where they say, well, if I can't trust these self-described feminists, obviously I can't trust anybody. And they get really like almost like self-destructive in how isolated they want to make themselves off from the rest of society. And I've just something that I've noticed this last year. It's like every couple of months I see some article of somebody saying, like, well, the Joss Whedon thing was certainly the icing on the cake, but there was plenty of stuff happening before it. I don't know if you saw, there was an article making the rounds from was it a blogger, a woman in Seattle who like was afraid that her sons, she said something like she was afraid that her sons were going to be rapists, and she like couldn't raise them to be, like she that's what it was. Like she was like, no matter what, they're always going to be men, and so they're always going to be dangerous. Like even though she's trying to raise them in a progressive home. It was just very depressing. It was very sad to see like these people like almost lose touch with reality.
Oh man, I don't think.
I know I just dumped a lot of stuff on you there.
I don't think there's a lot of reality touching going on right now.
Yeah.
Just in general. But yeah, I mean, it is 2017. We are meant to walk about the countryside with a flail, whipping ourselves in the back and face and apologizing for existing.
Right.
Like how it is right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what is actually going on or statistics or reality. Like none of that's actually important.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen similar. I haven't read a blog post about it, but I've seen like tweet stuff from women saying that if they had a boy, they would just, I don't know, like I've seen pretty extreme things.
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
topic. And that is a little unfair because that's us trying to judge a political affiliation by its most extreme members.
Right, agreed.
Well, I mean, they're also the loudest voices, so that's what we see. I don't know, man. You got to judge it based on what you see and what you experience.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced hasn't really made me feel less doomy and gloomy about it either.
Oh, I would agree. And that's, I think that kind of goes back to this whole, like, the disconnect between the digital social world and the real world. But
there's no way it's making people happier.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way this is a benefit to humanity at all. That's one of the reasons I'm avoiding Instagram. I think Instagram, it just looks like the ultimate extension of, here I am presenting a completely falsified version of my reality. Look how wonderful and glamorous my life is, and just feel drenched in despair that it's not. It's well, like I don't see my friends like sending me photoshopped version of their lunch to try to like convince me that they're just Beverly Hills, like
right.
Wasn't
there there was a study or something done by Facebook or somebody did a study, and like people that are like obsessed with using Facebook usually are more depressed because all they see is all of their friends posting all the good things that happen to them, and then they assume that everybody has good things happening to them all the time, because who's going to post publicly about all the bad things that are happening to you? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
hell yeah.
it creates this distortion of reality, and you start to think, nothing good is happening to me compared to these other people. And yeah, I think that there's a genuine danger in that.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. We're both libertarians over here.
Right. I guess we should put that out there just in case anybody didn't know.
I still feel like the way we use social media today is not right. And I really think there's going to be a time when changes have to happen, and where we put some rules in place. Because I don't know, like the whole attitude about driving isn't a right, it's a privilege. That kind of makes sense to me. Like there's no natural, obvious reason why we would be entitled to pilot this metal vehicle around, and there are potential consequences where people die. I don't know, man. Like social media seems like it's wildly destructive and fully and completely just the Wild West.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to last forever. Like I really think the way we use it now is pretty irresponsible.
I kind of agree. I'm not a big fan of Twitter. Like I am on the Twitter, but I don't use it that much other than to post about podcasts like this one, which I will probably post on Twitter. But I always find it really interesting the amount of people that like use Twitter a lot, and they love Twitter because they love how it can connect everybody to each other, and they love that there's only a 140 character limit, so it forces you to just spit out a quick little sentence or whatever. But then those same people will complain endlessly about somebody like Donald Trump, who's only uses Twitter and sounds like an idiot because he has to speak in little Twitter sentences, and he's not an eloquent speaker and all this other stuff. And that's not to sound like a defense of Donald Trump, but I just find the sort of like almost the double think or the hypocrisy of people that they love it when they use it, but they hate it when other people use it, kind of a thing.
I just feel like I don't understand why. So I'm in this old way of thinking where if one service gives me more options, why is that not the service I would use? And to me, like Facebook gives me the ability to do everything Twitter and everything Instagram can do, but other things also. So why would I ever not just use Facebook? Like, I don't understand people who see the appeal of services that are defined by their limitations.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're talking about. Like, Twitter's defined by its limitations in a big way. So is Instagram. It's defined by the fact that it's exclusively focused on images. Like, there's these other services out there like Facebook that do that, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to be able to understand why people find one more appealing than that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know what it is, though? It's an imaging problem. Facebook is full of moms. That's the problem. Facebook is full of moms sharing pictures of cats in sweaters.
So when the moms find Instagram, it's just going to be over?
Yes, I think so.
It's just going to bring devastation to Instagram?
Yeah, you need to get more moms on Instagram. That's the way to destroy it.
Wow,
I don't think you don't see... Yeah, exactly.
Instagram days are numbered. I'm bringing the moms.
Bring them all out in force.
I will destroy you with mothers.
You don't see too many moms on Snapchat, I think. And I think that's the cool one that all the kids are using.
I actually like Snapchat just because I can distort my face hilariously.
I like Snapchat because I like the destroying the messages and not leaving them like backed up somewhere in perpetuity. That's just the paranoid conspiracy theorist in me, but I do appreciate that.
Yeah, although the paranoid conspiracy theorist in me says Snapchat has it all.
Right, exactly.
They don't get rid of it. They've got it. Like,
it spins all the way back around, yeah.
I don't trust them. Like, they have all that. You know what I mean?
Boy, they probably got a lot of nude selfies.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do. And that's just the world. Our only respite is that there's just so many nude selfies out there. It's white noise. It can't be traced back. It's just lost in the static blast of dick pics. We can never trace it back because it's just so overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all we can hope for.
It is. Yeah. No, that's how I rest at night. I'm like,
yeah.
It's it's every dick out there. So you're safe, It's okay.
Yeah, I can relax a little.
So you know what I did yesterday?
What's that?
Went to Rose City Comic Con, which is, for my money, the best comic convention.
Did you? I wanted to ask you about some comic conventions. So real quick, did you just attend or did you have a table?
I attended.
Oh, okay.
Just attended.
Do you table at conventions? I don't think I've ever asked you this before.
Not really.
Okay.
So my whole thing is, I don't want to ask anybody for money until I have a whole lot of shit backing it up.
Oh man, don't I know about that?
Yeah. So I sort of just like lurk. I don't really table at conventions, although it's something that I increasingly have considered and will probably start doing before too much longer here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Rose City. There's kind of two major ones in Portland now. There were a number of indie ones in Portland as well for a while, but most of them kind of just withered away and were absorbed. Wizard World and Rose City are kind of the bigger ones.
Well, I can tell you which one I would be interested in, and it's the one that's not Wizard World.
Yeah, Wizard World is pretty underwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, Wizard World everywhere is underwhelming.
Yeah, it's not very good.
No.
But Rose City is pretty darn good.
I've actually heard a lot of good things about Rose City, and it's on my list of potentials if I ever make it out to the Northwest area. That one and Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle.
Yeah, I've never had the privilege of going to that, but I've wanted to, because here's a fact for everyone, especially anyone living in the Portland area: Seattle is way cooler than Portland. Period. It's a fact. It's just reality. Seattle is so much better.
My friend who lives in Seattle might disagree with you. But I think
could there possibly be?
This might just be a case of, the grass is greener. What's that song by that old great band, the Shags? The rich people want what the poor people got. Skinny people something. Can't remember the line. I gotta memorize that one.
You're referencing the Shags right now? My mind is blown.
You like the Shags?
Does anybody like the Shags? The Shags are something you can like. There's something you can experience.
That's right. I love the Shags. I do, unashamedly.
Yeah. That's the immortal question. Damn, dude.
Yeah. The Shags are fantastic. But they're like the one like so bad it's good kind of band that I can't get anybody else to listen to.
Well,
even my friends who are like obsessed with Frank Zappa, I'm like, this is the kind of music that Frank Zappa wished he was making.
That's true.
And they're not into it. It's so disappointing.
The Shags, it is something else. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Damn.
But anyway, so tell me more about Rose City Comic Con. How did that go for you?
It's a good convention. A couple people who usually show up weren't there this year, which was disappointing. I didn't see Mike Mignola. I didn't see Stan Sakai, and those are kind of the two guys I like to geek out on the most. But hey, Shatner was there. Your favorite rascally old man.
Man, I mean, he can't have too many more conventions in him. That guy he's 80 plus, right?
Shatner? I have no idea.
I think he is.
I don't know. But, I mean...
I guess Stan Lee's 90-something, and he's still doing them. Or actually, this year was his last year, I think.
Every single day, I'm afraid I'm going to wake up and read that Stan Lee is dead.
I know. I think people are counting down the days.
When his wife died, I was like, oh, it's up. That's it.
Me too, yeah.
When the spouse dies...
You got 8 months.
Yeah. 8 months is phenomenal. If
exactly.
Spouse dies, that's incredible. I would be surprised. But, I mean, Stan Lee is on the same plane as Walt Disney, essentially. His contribution to human culture cannot be over-exaggerated. And it's terrifying to me that he is eventually going to die, and it's probably going to happen any time. Because he's very, very old. But anyways,
yes. Yes.
So the thing about Rose City is because it takes place in Portland, you see a lot of kids running around in cosplay and stuff. But that also happens just on a normal Tuesday. You kind of don't it's a weird enough town that it's pretty it's pretty well designed to just kind of sprout up nerd culture in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, it's a double-edged sword because the convention feels pretty strong. There's lots of support, lots of people turn up. But it's also like, it's got this vein of nerddom that I find really, really, really disgusting. Like my least favorite thing about fandom and nerddom right now is like cutesy fan art. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I hate it so much. Like, I just stood there and looked at this like drawing of like a chibi anime style Captain Picard like hugging a cup of tea for like 2 minutes.
Oh my god, I know. Yeah, you see that at every convention. It's just
Why
everywhere.
is this a thing now? It's like, if it's a good thing I'm in no way successful, because if I was and someone did fan art of like a cutesy style version of any of my IPs, I would like throw up in my mouth.
Right.
Like, then it's so, I hate it so much. And it's so everywhere. I think we have deviant art to blame.
I think that's a lot of it. Yeah. We have to get some like real sociologists to start evaluating this problem, or perhaps archaeologists, like in 100 years or so.
I just think it's like they're not getting stuff in their real life. There's a lot of like, you know, beyond the escapism of like fantastic adventures and monsters and spaceships, like they're not getting some pretty basic human connection type stuff in their normal life. So they have this understanding that they possess these characters and these properties through their fandom. So they just kind of like mold them into what they need emotionally in a weird way.
Yeah, I can actually kind of. That actually kind of goes along with some of the things that I think. I think there's a general juvenile, adolescent attitude to a lot of the fan art out there. And adolescents kind of tend toward being overly emotional. I have to like exaggerate everything and blow it out of proportions. And I think you see that with a lot of this, like a lot of the super cutesy or like the super, gosh, I can't even think of the word I was thinking of. But yeah, no, I think that kind of ties into what you're saying about that. There's that coupled in with this fan entitlement, turns it into something that I really have no stomach for.
Yeah, and you see like every day your Facebook feed is probably clogged with like just brain dead memes of like a chibi style Deadpool doing something cutesy and retarded like every day. Like it's so lame. It's so lame.
So can I tell you a short funny story that really has no meaning or bearing on anything?
It's your podcast.
That's right. I was at work. I work in a restaurant, and there is a girl that works up front. She's a very, very nice girl. And she has been referred to as kind of ditzy, but she's very, very nice. And she came back one time and she said, "Hey, there's this guy out there who's wearing a shirt that's got an anime character on it, and it says tacos. You should check it out." She was like really giddy. She's like, it's cool, it's funny, you might like it. And I look, and it's a guy wearing a Deadpool shirt. And it's not like what you're thinking, like a chibi anime Deadpool. It was like just a panel ripped out of the comic book. It was like an Ed McGuinness. No, not even Ed McGuinness. It looked like an American comic book. And I was like, that's Deadpool. That's the comic book character Deadpool. And she goes, "Oh, I've seen that movie." And I don't know. It just killed me. There was this real, like, I guess a lot of kids said it. Like, to me, I come from an older in-between generation. I'm not Generation X, but I'm not really millennial, I suppose. And so I have this really stark separation between anime, comic books, and, all this other stuff. And I guess to a lot of kids today, it's just all cartoons.
Yeah.
But I'm actually, that actually gives me hope that barriers are breaking down and people just kind of see it all as one thing instead of trying to segmented off. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic or melodramatic myself.
No, I don't know. I'd be so happy if I never saw Deadpool again.
Oh man,
I used to love him so much during the Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness run. I loved that book.
Oh yes,
I loved it. It was great. But I think just because he's like the most meme ready, like comic book IP ever, he's now him and Harley Quinn are just going to be rubbed down your in your face every day. I don't ever want to see either of them ever again.
Yeah,
ever. I'm so overdosed on it.
It's really frustrating how that's happened because you're speaking my language. There was a time where Deadpool was possibly my favorite character, and that time was when nobody liked Deadpool. That was when Joe Kelly was writing Deadpool, or even later years when Fabian Nicieza was writing the Cable and Deadpool series. I really loved that. I have a lot of Deadpool comics, and I stopped right around the time that they started producing multiple Deadpool series per month.
Yeah, he just wound up being like he was in every team.
Yeah, and it exploded. And now, when I've had a table at a lot of conventions over the past couple of years, and let me tell you the one thing that people that creators complain about more than anything else, it's people cosplaying as Deadpool.
Yeah.
And it's not because you have anything against cosplayers. It's because there's something about these people when they put on the Deadpool costume, it's like they feel like they can embody everything about the character to the point where like if they're really annoying, like it's funny for them. Like it's funny that they would be really annoying because they're in their costume. And it's like, no, it's just really annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's definitely a very, very annoying character, which was okay when by nature you were exposed to him in like one title.
It's okay in a fictional setting. I don't want to have like 20 people wearing Deadpool costumes all trying to meme at me in real life.
Oh yeah, no, it's so terrible.
So here's another convention story. I don't know if anybody's ever said this. I was at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City a few months ago, earlier this year, and this is what happened was there was like 20 some odd Deadpool cosplayers, and they all gathered around for a dance party, which is a thing that they do.
Of course it is. It
so there was
like hell on earth.
Yeah, and so there's this open space, and they had somebody had like a radio, and they're playing like a not a radio, like a boombox, and they're just playing this obnoxious music, and they're all running around and dancing, and they're like blocking tables. And no joke, Dirk Manning. You know who Dirk Manning is?
No.
Comic book writer. He writes for oh, this is embarrassing. I'm gonna have to edit this in. Devil's Due. He's a really good kind of indie writer right now, but big guy. And Dirk Manning left his table and he walked over there, and they had a laptop that they were playing out of, and he said something to them. I didn't hear what it was, but I heard it reported that he said something to the extent of, "You better turn that down, or so help me God, I will destroy this laptop." And then he went back to his table, and like they all like kind of like sort of like dissipated, because most of these, they're kids.
They are not prepared for a real confrontation.
Exactly. Yeah, they were not prepared for a real confrontation. And Dirk Manning, if you've ever seen Dirk Manning or interacted with Dirk, he could be imposing if he wanted to be. He's got a little bit of a tough guy attitude, little tough guy aura.
In my mind, he's like a taller, younger Wilford Brimley right now.
No.
But like the kind of character that I could see being that grumpy, but also really intimidating. Like that's a taller, younger Wilford Brimley. That's what I see in my mind when I imagine this.
He's more like somewhere between Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Somewhere between there. Not quite as far as Joe Pesci, but not quite as like babyface as Ray Liotta.
I really like this guy.
He's a good writer. You check out some of his stuff. He writes like horror books and horror comics.
Yeah, he sounds like my kind of cat.
Mm-hmm,
I like the grump that he hit those nerds.
But yeah, him challenging a bunch of Deadpool cosplayers just made him like my favorite person in the world. It was incredible.
It's
comic book legend.
Yeah. It's perhaps natural that there would be some animosity and some infighting in like the comic book community, but like I do feel like the degree to which nerddom has become obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to change.
No,
Like,
I agree.
I'm into comics, but holy shit, I'm not okay with this. And like, if there were a bunch of Deadpools doing a dance party, it's like, motherfucker, I'm in my 30s. I got bills.
Right.
Like,
I'm trying to.
I'm a grown up. I don't
Yeah.
have time for your bullshit. Like, I want to take you this little boombox and destroy it, like the Deadlands guy or whoever you're talking about. Like,
Right.
like that's the guy I want to be in that scenario. Like, I do not want to condone a bunch of adults dancing like Deadpool to jams. Like, that's just awful.
Yeah.
That's really awful. And I know Comic-Con is kind of in their mind the place where they can like be themselves and like let go or whatever. But for fuck's sake, like, why does being yourself put you in a position where you want to be that obnoxious?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand young kids anymore. Even when I was a young kid, I didn't understand young kids.
Yeah. It's pretty awful.
But no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Comic-Con always a little bit tough to navigate for me.
It does, yeah.
It's very much been shanghaied by sort of this youth culture, which I think it's impossible for anyone to really be really in support of right now.
Yeah, I admit I don't feel much of a connection with this growing nerd culture. You know, this it almost like it's really difficult to say that without just sounding like an old man complaining about all the kids coming in and changing things. But it feels like different. Like it feels like too much of a fake identity that you can just slip on yourself. Like this like nerd bro culture. I don't know.
Here's maybe a good example of something similar. So as we mentioned earlier, I'm a big horror movie guy, like a really big horror movie guy. And when I was in college, there actually was offered like a horror cinema class, and I got incredibly excited. I was so excited, and I got into it, and I was so into it. I thought it was going to be great. And I went to class, and I thought, oh, this is going to be so good. We're going to have good conversations and everything. And I got there, and the class was filled largely by people who looked like they were outfitted exclusively at Hot Topic.
Yeah.
I would try to talk to them, and like one of them had these tattoos of like Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers and Leatherface, and I was like, oh great, and I was talking to her, and I was like, yeah, who are some of your favorite directors? And she's like, oh, I don't really know. And I'm like, oh, I really like Lucia Fulci. And she's like, yeah, Michael Carpenter's really good too. And it's like, Michael Carpenter? Like, oh shit, you don't know anything about what you tattooed on your body. You don't know what this is about. And it got to this part where everybody in the class basically just thought I was a dick because I wore normal human clothes.
Yeah.
I wore jeans and I wore like a t-shirt that was, whatever, or button up like shirt or whatever. Like I didn't dress like they did. So they assumed I knew nothing. And no matter what I said, they just disregarded and tried to ignore me, even though consistently they knew nothing about what they were talking about. And it was like they found a clique they could get into that somehow validated their ego, and so they just adopted the trappings of that culture without having any like actual interest in it. And then like I didn't have that. It was like a legitimate passion for me, but because I didn't have all this strictly superficial sort of just crap smeared all over me, or they just disregarded me and exiled me. Yeah. And it sort of feels like that with nerd culture. It's like,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like, no, I actually like comics and I like the medium and I want to, make comics and read them. But because like it's like I'm not here for this strictly superficial aspect, but that's what they do to like the nth degree. So it's just like, it's really tough.
I do think that it's hard to just get away from the natural inclination of people to form cliques, and that is something that it just sort of it grows to a point where it's unmanageable. Because I definitely see the exact same thing with comics now. It's fascinating to me how so many people, it's like it almost feels like it's a Twilight Zone episode where like as a kid, I was the only person in the world who read comic books, who knew anything about like superhero characters. And now it's like all anybody wants to talk about. But I have no interest in talking to them about it because
Oh, dude, that's my life.
yeah,
200%.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Bizarre and
crazy.
frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating in a way that's like really hard to express, I think. Because I'm not gonna just like go full Holden Caulfield and just call everybody, posers and phonies and like I don't want to be that bitter about things. I'm glad that people are enjoying things, but it's hard to express that feeling of isolation when you're like within a group that you shouldn't feel isolated in.
Yeah. Or when you've basically been ostracized for an enthusiasm in something your entire life, and then that very thing is basically taken from you by people who you don't actually have anything really in common with.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like a dick, they still treat you like a dick.
Yeah.
So I was being treated like a nerd and a dick because I liked comics before, but now everybody likes comics and they're treating me like a dick for some weird reason I don't even understand.
Yeah. It's like
really,
like I used to say when I was a kid, I was the weirdo, I was the oddball because I liked to play video games and it was really nerdy. And now as an adult, I don't play video games. And now I'm the oddball who's really weird and an outsider because I don't play video games. It's strange.
I can remember being made fun of by some like douchebag in the 7th grade who made fun of me for having like a video game console of some kind. I don't remember what console was out at that point, but I promise you that motherfucker plays Call of Duty on Xbox right now. And
exactly.
I promise if I can find him, he's got an Xbox in his home. And he plays it, and he goes online and he plays Call of Duty. I know it's true.
Yeah.
I'm not friends with him on Facebook. I've not seen proof of this. I don't have to see proof. I just know it,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. That's what's going on with me.
Yeah. And it's like, where's my comeuppance gonna happen? It's not. That's not gonna happen ever. I'm never gonna get satisfaction.
No.
And it's frustrating.
I just long ago decided I had to embrace being an outsider.
Which is the most like angsty and pretentious.
I know, it's so pretentious.
It hurts, but it's okay. I understand.
Everybody's a little pretentious.
Yeah, I don't like to, I wouldn't use the term outsider, but I would say that I've definitely accepted that I'm basically just always going to feel alienated.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Like, there's never going to be a time when the band that is generally thought of as being the best band in the world is good.
Yeah.
It's going to always be this way.
Yeah, that's just I think that's just human nature.
And that's part of why I'm that guy in the woods talking about the body snatchers.
That's right. Yeah. Somebody's got to.
Yeah.
It's important for the human ecosystem, the society.
You know what's weird?
What's
I don't
that?
even know how much more time we want to take up here, but really quickly.
I was just about to say that, but go ahead.
I think part of why socialism is really just so appetizing to so many kids today is because of Arrested Development.
Now, are you talking about Arrested Development, the band, Arrested Development, the TV show, or Arrested Development, the psychological condition?
phenomenon.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I assume so, but I wanted to clarify.
When you're a little kid, fascism completely makes sense because you don't really have freedom.
Right.
Your parents are in effect, they are in charge of you. They control you. You have no real rights. You have nothing. They are the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reality you know. And that's why when you're little, the kid that wears the different t-shirt or tennis shoes as everybody else is demonized, because at that point, groupthink is valued and being different is demonized. Because at that point, like, fascism legitimately makes sense to you. It's all you know. Really experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like now we've never really grown up. We got to this point now where these generations aren't actually growing up. They're kind of staying in this like zone where they're not really maturing past a certain point. Like, I now will see, adult males with beards and jobs wearing, My Little Pony t-shirts.
Wearing
like that.
onesies in public.
Yeah. I think if anyone ever had any questions about the priorities and values of the millennial generation, it's well illustrated in the roaring return of the adult onesie.
Yeah.
So I feel like to these kids, like now, like they've really never known independence. They've never known freedom, really, and they've never really had it. They're still kids in a real way. So to them, what are they getting rid of by like throwing away freedom? Basically nothing. To them, socialism sounds great because they've never really had independence.
Yeah, I think that you can make that argument very clearly. I do think that just a casual glance at popular memes or the way people talk on social media, you can see that kids are very not even kids, young adults, I should say. You know, people my age. You know, I'm in my 30s, but there's always this like weird like acknowledgement and joking about whether or not you've grown up yet.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I mean, like the phrase adulting, you know, things like that, where like it just kills me when you see like a bunch of 27-year-olds like joking about how like, oh, I had to be an adult today, and I'm just like, really? Like, I'll complain about the baby boomers quite a bit, but you know, they were fighting and dying in wars at the age of 16.
I'm not going to pretend I am exempt to the ways that my generation is like irreparably fucked up. I can see
agreed. Yeah.
from where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Like I can, you know, I'm in my home. Like this place does not look like this does not look like the home an adult would have had in the 90s at all.
Right.
I am very much afflicted, as are we all. I'm just saying, like, I think this is why this is happening. Yeah. I really do. I think it's part of it. Anyway, I mean, it's maybe a conversation for another time, perhaps.
Well, it could be. I mean, that could be a long-running conversation. Can you believe we've been sitting here chatting nonstop for a little over an hour now?
Yeah, it went pretty fast.
Yeah, it did. That's all I was planning on talking was an hour, and we didn't even get to talk about any of the stuff that you're working on.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I can quickly quip out a quick little blurb.
Well, tell me. Okay, I know you have your Fantastic Crap.
Yeah, Fantastic Crap Comics. Issue 6 is basically done. I have a couple tiny things to touch up, but I have let myself not focus on it because of how overwhelmed I am by other projects.
Now, you've told me that you're working on a film. Is this a short film?
Yeah, I'm working on a short film and also a book. The book I'm not really promoting yet because I'm Treebeard-like in nature and don't want to be too hasty. And I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, here's my project, and get everybody hyped, and then like 5 years later it comes out.
Oh, like, man. I know that, yeah.
Yeah, so the book I'm not really ready to promote too much yet, but it's not fiction, it's media criticism.
Okay.
But I am working on a short movie I will mention. It is called Bloodfuck, The Legend of Manglin Murphy.
Okay, that's a great title.
It's supposed to be the most foul and disgusting and terrible title I could think of.
I love it.
It looks like an early 90s shot on video splatter film. That's the joke. It's really a parody of that.
Okay.
It's a parody of those movies that were very punk rock in nature and tried very hard to just be as aggressively over the top and explicit and bloody as possible. And it's about a masked killer, sort of like your Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers type prototypical masked slasher guy. But his name's Manglin Murphy. He's going through a difficult divorce, and he's just really stressed out about it. And that's really just weighing on his mind a lot. And so he's also happens to be murdering a lot of people. But he's not really thinking too much about that. Almost every time you see him in the movie, he shows up and he goes, I'm Manglin Murphy. My wife left me. And then he just starts like attacking people. That's kind of his thing. I'm actually shooting a scene next week for it that require me to transform my storage unit into a dungeon. Yeah, and that's the movie.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It's gonna be funny. I'm pretty confident that it's gonna be funny, at least.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, as violent as possible.
Right. I think
it's a genre convention at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. It's sort of essential. Yeah,
it's gonna be good.
That's
He's,
good. Yeah.
Meghan Murphy is a fun dude. I like this character.
You want to do more with him after the short film, or is that giving away maybe too many spoilers?
We have like jokingly written like 15 extra movies. There's like Meghan Murphy goes to space, and there's like Meghan Murphy goes surfing.
Right. Yeah. Surfs up with Meghan Murphy.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got like, I would happily just make 111 Meghan Murphy movies if I were given the ability to do that. And not because any of them would be worth watching, but because it'd be hilarious if there were 111 Meghan Murphy.
Of course.
Yeah. I would never want anyone to watch it. Just knowing that that happened is the joke.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. There's
Well, cool,
111 unwatchable movies.
Only released on some like unobtainable format.
Yeah, some kind of like South Korean video disc.
Exactly.
Like 1987. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on board with that.
Great. Well, this was good. I think we're gonna have to call this episode. We've been rambling on for so long now.
Sounds groovy, dude.
But thank you. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We'll definitely do this again. Who knows where the conversation will take us. But if people wanted to find your work, where could they find that?
My comic is at fantasticcrapcomics.com, and there's also a good selection of my writing up there. Mm-hmm. But I haven't updated the writing in a while because 100% of my writing has been on this book. I'm hoping to have the book. It's pretty big. Last check, I had 96,000 words, and I'm maybe about 25% done. So this is a huge book.
Wow, yeah.
And I really realistically don't know when it'll be done, although I have already sort of kind of hooked up distribution in Europe for it.
Oh, cool.
Which is pretty cool. But I'm giving myself as much time as I need to finish it because I've not done something like this before, and I don't know what's reasonable. So I'm just doing it as fast as I can.
Just kind of winging it. Yeah,
I am still having a couple articles published on different websites that aren't mine from time to time, but nothing that I know of right now.
All right.
So fantasticcrapcomics.com. That's the best place to go for it.
All right. Well, cool. I definitely recommend it. I think I said this on the last podcast, but I enjoyed the comic, the Fantastic Crap comic. I thought it was very funny. And I hope you can get your book and your movie done so that you can do more comics.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I don't want to sound too biased, but I do love comics. Well, all right. We're going to call it here. Chris, we'll definitely do this again sometime. And everybody out there, thanks for listening. And that will be the end of it. All right.